This episode was certainly an interesting one, touching on a few things that we've been waiting for a while in the RWBY series, as well as making a couple connections in Atlas that seem promising for where Volume 7 is headed. But before I get into any of that, I will say spoiler warning for those who have not seen Episode 4 of RWBY Volume 7, as I will not be showing the episode or any clips from it in this video. Simply images of the episode and offering analysis of the episode itself. I will leave a link down in the description below, so you guys can go to Rooster Teeth first, watch the episode there, and support the series that we all love. Now, the episode itself starts off with Amity Coliseum arriving right at the mine that's going to serve as its launch site to get into the atmosphere. It's immediately after the Geistgrim has been defeated, as the Ace Operatives are just exiting the mine after defeating the Geist. And based on the skill and efficiency that they showed during that fight, it seems that Team RWBY and JNR are a bit, shall we say, in awe of the Ace Operatives. It's mentioned that the Ace Ops didn't really have to talk very much or communicate when they were fighting the Geist. They were able to operate off of each other and, you know, be very efficient in taking it out. It was shown in Episode 3 that Team RWBY and JNR didn't really know how to deal with the Geist after it had incorporated dust crystals into its body, but the Ace Operatives didn't hesitate. So it shows a bit of a difference in skill between the two teams. And, well, you know, we say difference in skill, but it's shown that Marrow's kind of being made out to be the dumb one of the group, shall we say. And he's acting a bit arrogant, but his team points out that his flaw is his brain, so yeah. And we also get to see a little interaction between the two hammer wielders, Nora and Elm, something that I think a few people have been wanting to see since Elm's introduction as another hammer wielder. And Nora actually offers a team name, or I guess what's probably going to become a ship name for the two, Thunder Thighs. I guess fitting, but still. We also see the two standing next to each other, and I knew Nora was a bit of a smaller person, as we've seen her standing next to Ren before and everything, but Elm is just a giant tree of a woman, or Nora's just very smaller than I thought, because Elm's like twice the size of her. Just an interesting thing I noticed there. The ship name's not touched on again for the rest of the episode, but we do see RWBY approach Harriet saying, "You guys worked very well together. I hope that I can protect my friends or fight alongside my friends in the same way that you do." And Harriet sets her straight real fast, like, friends? No. I rely on them to keep me alive, but I keep the two things very distinct and very separate. So yeah, there's definitely a difference there. That kind of bums Team RWBY out, but even though RWBY makes the suggestion, hey, let's go do something, let's go tour Atlas, everyone's just too tired to do anything. But now Ironwood shows up, and we see that he sends Clover off to go to Mantle. And again, Marrow's being set up as kind of the dumb one, as Ironwood specifically says, okay, Clover, you take someone, go to Mantle, but maybe don't take Marrow, as Marrow's kind of acting like an idiot at the moment. So yeah, even Ironwood's aware that Marrow's skilled, but upstairs he's lacking a little bit. Poor Marrow, but he's probably one of my favorites of the Ace Ops to begin with. And Ironwood then calls over Crow, John, and RWBY, the team leaders, to give them a little bit more of information. You know, how I said at the end of last episode we saw Forrest being attacked by Tyrian, and I said the next time we'd see him is probably in the obituaries? Yeah, pretty much, as Ironwood brings up an image of him. Murdered. He dead. Forrest has been killed by someone in a chain of murders trying to set up Ironwood, it seems. People are being killed who are speaking out against Atlas, specifically speaking out against Ironwood. And they are trying to frame Ironwood. And it's working! So, I'd like to point back to a video that I made a couple weeks back about Tyrion's purpose in Atlas. His overall goal is literally to silence the movement against Atlas and against Ironwood to create a revolt. Seems like that's actually what's going to happen. The accumulation of which going to be Tyrion trying to take out Robin Hill, and then Crow coming to Robin's defense to, you know, try to prevent that from happening. So yeah, that definitely seems where the series is headed. And Ironwood says that, you know, all of your teams can do a lot of good here. He trusts them, and he wants them to help in Mantle. We don't get to hear what Ironwood has planned for the teams in Mantle as someone else decides to show up and interrupt them. Jacques Schnee has graced us with his presence. He flies in on his Schnee ship, and let's say he's not very happy with Ironwood. After crippling his company with the dust embargo, he's now taking private property from him? Well, how dare he? Just wait until the council finds out about that. But Ironwood's prepared for him. He's already told the council. In fact, since the property's being used for a classified military operation, he didn't even have to take a vote in the council. He could just take the property. So maybe, Jacques, you should read up on the council policy before you lose the election that you're trying to win the council seat. So that was a very nice rebuttal that he had, which Jacques Schnee wasn't very happy with. Ironwood also added in that, I allowed you to land here, you know, on his own property that had been seized. I allowed you to land here this time, but next time it won't be so friendly, which Jacques was not happy about. Kind of nice to see. And then he saw Weiss starts going off on Ironwood about how dare you get my daughter involved in this, my missing daughter, mind you. And now it's Weiss's turn to give him a little piece of her mind. She says, I chose to get involved in this, just the same as I chose to leave. Or did you forget that? And Jacques gets pissed. He has half a mind to, and Ironwood cuts him off. Oh yeah, half a mind to what? And that kind of, you know, stops Jacques from probably reeling back and going to hit Weiss again, at which point, if he did that, oh, that... I almost wish that he had taken it one step further and actually made a movement, because everyone would have laid him out. And at this point, though, you know, cover your ears, children, but this douche canoe decided to talk to Weiss and said, you know, your mother was very devastated that you left, and you know what happens when she gets upset. He's using his wife, Weiss's mother, as a weapon to emotionally damage Weiss, or emotionally get to her. Like, this guy needs to lose a few teeth. Honestly, that better happen by the end of Atlas. I have a feeling he might end up dead, but at the very least, he needs to have a broken nose and maybe lose a few teeth. I feel like that, at the very least, would be very satisfying. But he said, and then he turns to Ironwood and says, you know, I didn't come here to be pissed at you about taking the property or anything like that. I came to thank you. You finally overstepped your bounds, and you just handed me the noose that's going to hang yourself with. So, yeah, Jacques came there to thank him. That's why he came off of the ship very pissed off. You know, this is going to end up being very interesting. It's the first mention of Weiss's mother that we've had for a while, which is nice to see, although not the right circumstances to do so. But hopefully we'll get to see Weiss's mother, as we know her as Willow Schnee currently. We'll hopefully see her soon in the RWBY series. At this point, though, Jacques gets back on his ship and takes off with his tail between his legs, and then conveniently Winter shows up, avoiding her father. And before she can really get out many more words, Penny shows up as well with congratulations over her head, which seems very weird at the moment, but we find out exactly why as everyone goes up to Amity Coliseum, the familiar battleground that was the scene that changed everything in Volume 3. The entire tone of the RWBY series we have returned to. And as Ironwood starts to give the speech, since they were last there, they have traveled a pretty difficult path. They fought at Beacon to defend their school, fought at Haven Academy to defend against, you know, the evils of the world, and have faced many things that most people can't even imagine. That is not the path of a student. That is the path of a huntsman or huntress. And at this point, they are all given their official hunter licenses. We see that Ren had his, or I'm guessing they all did, but we see Ren specifically that he still had his student license issued from Beacon Academy and everything, and that he had classification C, or information access level C, or whatever it was called. And when he gets his hunter license, it's the exact same. So they're not really have access to much more information, even though they're in the close-knit group that has access to the information about Salem, the relics, and the overall truth of the world. I feel like they should have a higher information level than that, or classification level. I don't remember exactly what it was called, but yeah, I feel like they should have a little bit higher of a classification than that. But it's nice to see that all of them are officially licensed. But it also comes to mind that no one's going to touch on the fact that Jean didn't even make it into the Huntsmen Academies legitimately. Like, that was brought up way back in Volume 1, that Jean faked his transcripts to get into Beacon Academy. Never touched on again, and now he's officially got his license. So this lesson to all of you out there, it's okay to cheat, kids. You can still graduate and get your degree. No, that's not how the world works. There's going to have to be some repercussions, I hope, down the line, though I have a feeling it's not going to be touched on again. This also means now that Team RWBY and Junior are full-fledged huntsmen that they've pulled ahead of their classmates, Team Sun, and also Team Coffee, who is a year ahead of them at Beacon Academy, and who's still currently studying at Shade Academy. So I guess circumstances be as they may, it makes sense, but I still kind of feel bad for Team Coffee in that regard. We also get to see a little scene that stood out to me, whereas, you know how people say, you know, God knows you deserve it based on what you've been through? In this case, Ironwood, when he's giving his speech, says, brothers know you deserve it. Obviously referring to the two gods, the brothers of light and darkness, etc. It was just something that gave me pause and I had to go back and see. Something I hadn't heard in the series so far. And Ironwood then goes on to say, you know, with the tensions in Atlas and with Salem still being out there, he could use people that he trusts, and he should be so lucky that he has Team RWBY and Junior here to trust and to help him. So Ironwood really seems like he's trustworthy, that, you know, he should be trusted with all this information, but I feel like the series is headed in a way, or the volume's headed in a way, that something's still going to be there, that it might be a good thing they didn't trust him right away. I don't know. I'm interested to see how this all turns out. But he has to leave on other military business, so leaves them with some cake, and they can celebrate. And we see that everyone's kind of crowded around the cake, but Ruby's sitting off in the stand by herself. But we get to see everyone take it easy for a bit, which they haven't been able to do for quite a while, it seems. And we see Blake and Yang having their little moments, as well as Yang with Penny, and it seems Yang's arm is very detachable. But we also get confirmation that Penny still has her swords that she had in volumes 1 to 3. Granted, they're only used for cutting cake now, but they're still there nonetheless. And we also see that Crow comes to talk to Ruby. That Ruby, she says the same thing that she said during the Volume 7 trailer, that she's always trying to do what she thinks is best, but she's not sure that what's best is what's right. And that she's concerned if she's doing the exact same thing that Ozpin is doing, or had done. And Crow puts it quite elegantly, that Ozpin kept the entire truth to himself, but Ruby is trusting other people. It's just she's making them prove themselves trustworthy first, which is exactly what she's doing, and it makes sense. So I like how it's put that way, implying that, okay, she will trust people and will trust more people in the future. It's just is being a little bit more cautious about it. Not as cautious enough to keep everything to herself, etc. And Crow at this point says to Ruby, as she's feeling a bit overwhelmed by it all, that her mother, and mentions Summer by name, would be proud of Ruby. And this prompts something that we've all been wondering about for a long time. The last mission that Summer, that Ruby's mother, went on, is that some big secret of Ozpin's as well? And Crow actually says, no, this was Summer's secret. That when Summer went on that last mission and disappeared and didn't come back, that Ozpin was just as much in the dark as the rest of them, as Ty and Crow were, which implies that Summer went off to do something on her own. And since she disappeared and just didn't come back, does that mean that she could be alive? Did they get confirmation of death? We need to know these things, because Summer's a fan favorite character, and we only just got a clear image of her back in Volume 6. So we need to learn more about Summer, and I'm hoping that because this little instance was dropped, that her last mission was mentioned, maybe we will get an expansion on it. as Volume 7 continues. Maybe with Ozpin's return, maybe Crow will say more about it if he knows more than he's letting on, or something like that. I hope we find out more. Maybe it was just dropped in there to show that the writers are still have it in the back of their mind, but we still won't find out for a while, but I hope we find out soon. And then they invite RWBY over with the rest of them so they can have cake, and we see that there's actually a mission board for Huntsmen, as we saw back at Beacon Academy, where everyone was going to accompany a professional huntsman on their mission, where Team RWBY went with Oobleck down to investigate Mountain Glen and all of that back in Volume 2. Now they can accept missions on their own, except this time it seems Elm, Marrow, and Vine show up, and they seem to... it seems like they're going to guide them on certain missions. Marrow kind of tricks Jean into volunteering for an escort mission of preschoolers. So even before preschoolers getting to their school, as you know, parents worry, and apparently that draws Grimm. That's kind of terrifying to think about, that just worrying about your child can draw Grimm, but that is the world that they live in, I suppose. And this is also down in Mantle, so I feel like this simple little mission that isn't supposed to actually involve any Grimm is going to turn, shall we say, Grimm. And it's going to involve a little bit more. It'll be nice to see, though, in the next episode, most likely, we might actually get to have an expansion on what it is like to be an actual huntsman, you know, not fighting the grand evil that is Salem, just day-to-day life as a huntsman, going on missions, things like that. I'm glad they're expanding on that a little bit. We also get a second mission where Marrow asks for 2 volunteers, or not Marrow, Elm asks for 2 volunteers, where there's a giant saber that's loose in the sewers underneath Mantle, and they need to go and exterminate it. So just a regular search and destroy mission, a little bit more everyone's speed, but everyone seems to be going to head down to Mantle again, so there's going to be more that's going to happen in Mantle, especially now that we know someone is out there killing people who are speaking out against Atlas. And we know who that person is, of course, Tyrian. So that's going to be interesting to see. And for the last scene of the episode, we cut to the Schnee Manor, where Jacques Schnee is drinking and brooding in his office. Whitley comes and says, hey Dad, you got a guest. He kind of let himself in, and we see Watts arrive at the manor, or in Jacques' office. So, Jacques a little bit shocked to see him, nonetheless, as apparently Arthur Watts is supposed to be dead. Of course, he faked his own death. So it seems that in Atlas, Watts will have to lay low. People do know him, but since he's supposed to be dead, he's probably not supposed to be, or doesn't want himself to be seen. So we'll see how that all works out. There are definitely going to be people who know him, considering he's on a first-name basis with Jacques Schnee. They knew each other, probably worked together. Maybe Watts helped Jacques get to where he is to some extent. Maybe a lot. We'll end up having to see. But he also points out, you know, Jacques, I've heard you've had an Ironwood problem. Causes Jacques to go off about that, but Watts ends up offering, you know, I might be able to help you with that. You could have your cake and eat it too. As Jacques said, if it wasn't for this council vote, he needs the people's votes from Mantle, otherwise he would lay off every employee he had in Mantle. Oh, if there's probably going to be a Mantle uprising, but it should definitely not be against Ironwood, it should definitely be against Jacques Schnee. This is where the episode ends, and we're left off with that little ominous words from Watts, as he's going to help Jacques try to bury Ironwood, it seems. But as we saw in the Volume 7 opening, that Robin Hill was staring at a screen staring at a screen that had Ironwood's image on it. People were protesting in front of it, throwing rocks and everything at the screen, and as it hit the screen, it glitched out to show Jacques. This is exactly what's happening here. People are getting pissed off at Ironwood, but they should really be getting pissed off at Jacques, especially now that Watts is going to start helping Jacques, it seems, to bury Ironwood and get Jacques into more of a place of power where he can get what he wants done in Atlas. So that's going to be interesting to see how it goes. I was really hoping that at the end of the episode we were going to see Weiss's mother, but unfortunately no. We just saw the Mustache Club as they met for the first time in a very long time. But yeah, it seems that the mustache is the sign of evil, as Watts and Jacques now know each other. Makes you wonder who else could be part of that crew. But overall, I really enjoyed the episode. We got to see more of the Ace Operatives, got a little bit more information. Now we've seen Jacques, Schnee, and Weiss interact with each other again. It was really nice to see Weiss just straight up stand up to her father and not give a shit what he thinks, until, you know, he brought up her mother, which did get to her, and, you know, he's a dick for doing so. With the Ace Operatives, though, if there is actually a traitor among them, I have a feeling it's not Elm or Marrow, unless they're very good actors, because they seem like very straightforward and genuine people. They wear their heart on their sleeve type thing and just act as they are. If there is a traitor, we don't really know much about Vine, so it could be him, as he's kind of a quiet type. But I'd actually put my money on either Clover or Harriet being a traitor, if anyone. I have a feeling that they may not actually be traitors, or I have a feeling there might not actually be a traitor among them, just that their orders are going to be manipulated by Watts or something along those lines. I'm curious to see how that's going to turn out, though. The most important thing about this episode, though, is, in my mind at least, is we got a very tiny bit about Summer. That her last mission was something that she went on of her own choice, that it seems Ozpin didn't either know about or have much information on, or wasn't even his mission to assign to begin with. It's something that she chose to do and she didn't come back from. I don't know if that means that she's just assumed to be dead, since no one ever heard from them again, and it was definitely not like her to abandon her family and things like that. I'm guessing that's the way it went, because it doesn't sound like there was confirmation of death or anything like that. So it is entirely possible that something happened and Summer just either couldn't come back, decided not to come back, maybe was taken prisoner, or I don't know. Summer could still be alive based on this. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to turn out. I don't really know if she is alive, that'd be great. If she's not, I want more expansion on it. Either way, I'm okay with, but honestly, I just really want more information on it. It was nice that in Volume 6 we got all the expansion from The Lost Fable and all of that lore. Now we need more expansion on Team Stark, on Ruby's, family history, Summer Rose in particular, and how she relates to all of this, because it's being set up that Summer Rose is going to have some pretty, I'm guessing, substantial role in the overall scheme of things. That, 14 years ago, or however long it was, when Summer Rose disappeared, there was a reason for it. It seems to be building up to that. It's going to have to do with probably one of the kingdoms, probably Salem, probably something to do with the grand scheme of it. Because during this entire conversation, Ruby also said, "What would my mother have done?" Crow said, "Probably the same as you. If she learned the truth of the world, she would push forward." A little bit different than what Crow decided to do, which was turn to drinking immediately until Ruby snapped him out of it. But still, if she found out about the truth of the world, would push forward. Maybe Summer did find out about the truth of the world. Maybe she decided to push forward in a different way, not want to involve her team and her family in this. I kind of feel like that wouldn't fit her personality, but something had to happen. And as the fandom, we need to find out what it is, and I hope we find out this volume. But let me know what you guys think. What did you guys think of the overall episode? What did you think about the little tidbits of information we got here, as well as, the Mustache Brigade coming together with Jacques and Watts knowing each other, and Jacques seemingly very willing to work together with Watts, even though he faked his death, but brush that off. Let's hear your plan about dealing with Ironwood type thing. So, what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. I look forward to seeing what you guys think, seeing any theories that you guys come up with, etc. So, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't and want to see more videos like this. There'll be plenty more coming throughout the Volume 7. Sorry that over the last couple weeks I haven't really posted that much. I've been pretty busy with school as things are kind of coming to a head with the end of the term and everything like that, but should be more videos coming out soon. Again, thank you so much, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.